Oh. All right. So right now in this portion of Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that there's essentially two different, totally opposite ways in which one can live their life. Actually, let me just rewind a little bit. In chapter 13, well, the main topic that was being discussed was Bhagavan Krishna was explaining to Arjuna that there's you, who is the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field of objects, and there's the Kshetra, which is the field of objects. So Bhagavan Krishna made this distinction that there's me, the I, the knower of all of these experiences, and then there's this world of experiences. So then in chapter 14, Bhagavan Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, well, what if, and furthermore, in chapter 13, Bhagavan Krishna makes the assertion that the subject, the knower of the field of objects, is the same. All knowers are the same. There's no distinction. There's no Shankar who's separate, who's a separate knower than Rupa. So it's the same knower. So Arjuna's doubt is, if we are all the same experiencer fundamentally, then why is it that all of us are having different types of experiences? So that's the question that Bhagavan Sri Krishna is answering in chapter 14. And Bhagavan Krishna's answer is, because of the functionings of the gunas, when this field of experience operates through the various gunas, we get different types of experiences. So that was the topic of chapter 14. And then in chapter 15, Bhagavan Sri Krishna goes into depth into what exactly is the nature of this knower of the field of experiences. So now we're left at this point in chapter 16, where Prince Arjuna is now wondering to himself, okay, I'm the knower of the field of experiences. All of us are having different experiences because of the gunas, but what exactly are the differences in the types of experiences that one can have when operating through this world? So now Bhagavan Krishna is differentiating the different types of experiences one can have. And Bhagavan Krishna broadly classifies them into two distinct types of experiences we can have. One is divine in nature, which is what Bhagavan Krishna was explaining in the beginning portion of this chapter, that it's when we are suffused with sattva, nobleness, the way in which we act in the world is virtuous, and our resulting experience is that of joy. And furthermore, when we operate through sattva and we embody these virtues, we move towards freedom. And he juxtaposes this with the total opposite type of experiences, is when we're operating primarily through rajas, then we have these demonic-like qualities, these vices. And because of these vices, we have a very negative experience of the world around us. So this is the way in which Bhagavan Krishna is classifying this field of experiences to Arjuna, that there's two types of experiences that you can have in this world. And Krishna is directing Prince Arjuna to act in such a way so that we can get the most joy out of our experience in the world. That's point one. And the most important point is that when we act in this type of way, we move towards an ultimate goal of freedom. It's not just a continuous, some good experiences, some bad experiences. Let's just try and maximize the amount of good experiences I can have and minimize the amount of bad experiences that I have. There's a grander purpose to our life, which is that if we act intentionally, we can move towards liberation. We can move towards an experience which is grounded in fundamental truth. So that is where we are in our discussion in Bhagavad Gita. So now we're on chapter or verse number 14. So I'll read it and then we'll talk about it. So Bhagavan Krishna says, Asau maya hata shatruhu anishye cha paranapi ishwaro hamaham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. In verse number 13, Bhagavan Krishna was explaining to Arjuna the type of attitude this selfish individual has when viewing the world of objects, essentially. So how does a selfish person view the world of objects? He said in the previous verse that that this has been gained by me, that I have this certain desires and I want to obtain these type of objects, that this is mine. So it's a very selfish attitude toward the realm of objects. So now in verse 14, what we just chanted, Bhagavan Krishna is explaining to Arjuna the type of mentality that this selfish person has to the realm of beings. So he says, the selfish person says, that enemy has been slain by me, and others also shall I destroy. I am the Lord, I am the enjoyer, I am perfect, powerful, and happy. So this is the mentality of someone who is operating through rajas and thus has a very selfish outlook on the world of beings. Namely, they think that, they have this very zero-sum game mentality that if I win, you have to lose, right? I'm out here conquering others, accumulating power to myself, which necessarily means I have to take from others. So it's like this myopic, zero-sum type of mentality with the world. I win and you lose. They also feel like it is by my effort that all of this has been done. An extreme sense of doership. Because of me, X, Y, and Z has gotten done. Because I feel like I did it, they also have an extreme sense of enjoyership. Because I did it, I deserve the results. I should be the enjoyer of the fruits of actions. So like this, the selfish person views the various beings around them. Essentially, the selfish person treats others as a means to their own end. So I think the last thing which is important to talk about is, why is it that certain type of actions, meaning what Bhagavan Krishna was explaining in the beginning, selfless actions, why is it that those type of actions bring us closer to peace, whereas these highly selfish type of actions and attitudes bring us closer to bondage? What about the selflessness or selfishness in the action allows for it to bring us closer to peace or bring us further away from peace? So in essence, there's this Adi Shankaracharya, he explains this sort of triangle of bondage. And what he says is, before we engage in any action, prior to that action, there was a desire in the mind. So before any intentional action, there was a desire in the mind. So desire shapes the action. Okay. But now, prior to the desire arising in the mind, what was there before that? What gave shape to that particular desire. Why did I want chocolate ice cream and not vanilla ice cream? So this beautiful insight is that Adi Shankaracharya alludes to is that our likes and dislikes, you could say vasanas, but simply our likes and dislikes shape our desires. So our likes and dislikes, they shape our desires. Our desires, they shape our actions. And whenever we engage in an action, so suppose I like chocolate ice cream, so I desire chocolate ice cream. So I went out and I am now eating chocolate ice cream. Now that I am experiencing the joy of eating chocolate ice cream, that association between joy and the object chocolate ice cream becomes reinforced, right? That's what a like is, an association between an object and joy. So that becomes reinforced. So our likes and dislikes get stronger. So this Adi Shankaracharya and our scriptures have this great insight that when we operate as we normally do, that our likes and dislikes, they shape our desires shape our actions, and our actions reinforce our likes and dislikes, we're essentially stuck in this endless circle of constantly pursuing things. Where in that circle or where in that triangle is our own free will? Where's our own choice? So now the great insight is that it's only in this section from desire being translated into action that we are exerting our own free will, right? It's not like just because I have a desire for chocolate ice cream, I'm going to stand up from our satsang and go to the fridge and get chocolate ice cream, right? It's not like every single desire that comes into my mind, I act on. So therein lies that small sliver between desire and action. There lies our free will. So what Bhagavan Krishna is explaining to Arjuna is he's saying that if we're engaging in life where everything we're doing is fundamentally shaped by a like or dislike, we're only engaging in this type of responsibility because we like it, we're not doing this because we don't like it, then we're just stuck in this constant endless circle of being essentially controlled by our likes and dislikes. We're like a robot. What our mind tells us to do, we just go out and do. What our mind tells us we don't want to do, we end up not doing. So the reason why selfless action is prescribed to move us closer to peace is because, and whenever we use the word selfless action, it's actually meant in a very technical way. What it means is you're engaging in an action which is not shaped by a like or dislike, meaning you're doing something without the expectation of getting joy in return. So like, for example, and this is I think about this a lot whenever this topic comes up, is, when we were studying in the ashram, we had to do a lot of seva. And one of the common activities we had to do was, we had this big hall auditorium, and we had to constantly stack up the rows of chairs and move it to the side, clean, and then re-put out all the chairs again. We had to do this so many times, like twice a week. And it was a big hall. So we'd have to stack all these chairs, and there'd be these big stacks of chairs, and we'd have to have two people carry a stack to move it to the side of the hall. So, after like a year or so, we're constantly doing this seva. And one of my batchmates, he says, I'm so sick of having to move these stacks of chairs. Why don't we just get a chair dolly? And, we can just put the chair dolly under and we can just wheel it to the side. Why are we breaking our backs trying to move these tall stacks? So he petitioned our teacher and said, I'll sponsor the cost. Can we just get this chair dolly? And, our acharya, our teacher, Swamiji said, no. He said, no, we can't get a chair dolly. There's no cost to the ashram. There was just, in our mind, there was just benefit, right? What's the cost? So my batchmate was very agitated by this. But when we really start to reflect on it, we come to understand that what we were supposed to be doing was seva, right? Selfless action. But as soon as this like or dislike entered the scope of our mind, right? As soon as we started thinking about, I don't really like having to move these big stacks of chairs, our like and dislike started to shape our actions. And as soon as that becomes the reason which we're operating, is because I'm trying to avoid a dislike, it's no longer seva. Even though we're not getting paid or we're not doing anything, if my actions are, okay, we have to do this seva, you know what? I really don't like stacking chairs, so I'm going to go hide in the corner and just sweep for a little bit. It's not seva anymore. We're operating because we're trying to avoid sorrow or pursue pleasure. So that is the essence of, which then perpetuates your likes and dislikes and keeps us in this circle of bondage. So that's what Bhagavan Sri Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, is saying that when you're fundamentally motivated by selfishness, you will be forever bound and a slave to your own mind. If you can invoke selflessness behind all of your actions, which looks to us as virtue, selflessness translates into virtue in our own personality, then you're free of your likes and dislikes. You're not doing it because you like to do it or you don't like to do it. You're doing it for a higher ideal. You're slowly being freed from the slavery of the tyranny of your own mind. So that's how it works. That's why selfless action brings us closer to peace, is it frees us from the bondage of our likes and dislikes. All right. So your rad for today is, whenever you are doing any work today, whenever you're engaging in your responsibilities today, always try to remember that this work is not being done by you. Okay, so try to keep that one reflection at the forefront of your mind today, that what is being done is not being done by you. There's one of my favorite quotes from Nisargadatta Maharaj in the book I Am That, is, I can't remember the quote exactly, but what he says is that everything is caused by innumerable events. I think that's the quote. Everything is caused by innumerable events. A thing is as it is because the universe is as it is. Meaning, like, even us being in satsang right now, we may say, oh, it was because of my effort, I woke up early in the morning, that I'm able to be in class. But if you really trace the lines of causes and effect, well, we were presented with this opportunity through Chinmaya Mission, through Vivekji, and you can keep tracing all of the causes infinitely backwards, right? Literally infinitely backwards. So in a very real sense, everything is happening as it is because the whole universe has come together to make that thing happen. And that's the essence of relinquishing doership, is understanding that this is happening not by my effort. I'm just one link in the infinite chain of cause and effects. This is happening because the whole universe has come together to make it happen. All right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.